Hello friends, welcome to our channel. Here we try to cover some of the best thrilling stories and novels of world literature. Today, we're diving into a powerful and thought-provoking story from American literature, Désirée's Baby by Kate Chopin. This tale explores themes of love, identity, and the devastating impact of prejudice, all set against the backdrop of 19th century Louisiana. So relax, and let's journey together through this hauntingly beautiful story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to never miss any updates. Kate Chopin, born Catherine O'Flaherty, was an American author of short stories and novels. She was born in St. Louis, Missouri in 1850, of maternal French and paternal Irish descent. Best known for her stories that explore the lives and struggles of women, Chopin's work often challenged societal norms of the late 19th century. After her husband's death, she turned to writing nearly 100 short stories and a few novels. Her most famous work, the 1899 novel, The Awakening, was initially controversial for its portrayal of female independence, but is now hailed as a classic in feminist literature. Chopin's writings continue to be celebrated for their insights into the complexities of gender and identity. Now, let's dive into the story. This story is set in a French Creole community of plantations in southern Louisiana during the antebellum period, i.e., from the conclusion of the War of 1812 to the start of the American Civil War in 1861. This era was marked by the prevalent practice of slavery and the associated societal norms it cultivated. In this story, L'Abri, which is French for the shelter, was the plantation estate of the Aubigny family, and the Valmond family had a plantation estate also after their surname. As the day was pleasant, Madame Valmond was going to L'Abri to see Désirée and her baby. It made her laugh to think of Désirée with a baby. Why, it seemed but yesterday that Désirée was little more than a baby herself, when Monsieur, in walking through the gateway of Valmond, had found her asleep in the shadow of the big stone pillar. With no clue of her origins, the Valmond took the child in, naming her Désirée, and raising her as their own. French origin, the feminine given name, Désirée, means someone much desired. Madame Valmond believed that Désirée had been sent to her by a beneficent providence to be the child of her affection, seeing that she was without child. The girl grew to be beautiful, gentle, affectionate, and sincere, the idol of Valmond. As Désirée grew into a young woman, she captured the heart of Armand Aubigny, a wealthy plantation owner. Riding by Valmond and seeing her there, he had fallen in love with her at first sight. Despite the mystery of her origins, he was determined to marry her. Their marriage was a grand affair, and Désirée moved to L'Abri, where she and Armand began their life together, filled with love and happiness. When she reached L'Abri, Madame Valmond shuddered at the first sight of it, as she always did. It was a sad-looking place, which for many years had not known the gentle presence of a mistress, for old Monsieur Aubigny having married and buried his wife in France, and she had loved her land too well ever to leave it. Young Aubigny's rule was a strict one, and under it, his Negroes had forgotten how to be happy as they had been during the old master's easygoing and indulgent lifetime. The young mother was recovering slowly and lying full length. The baby was beside her, where he had fallen asleep, and a yellow nurse woman was sitting near them. Désirée was glad to see her mother and had a welcoming conversation with the latter. French was the language spoken at Valmond and L'Abri in those days. Then Madame Valmond turned to the child.
This is not the baby.
Désirée giggled.
I knew you would be astonished at how he has grown. The little cochon de lait. Look at his legs, mama, hands, and fingernails. Zandrine had to cut them this morning. Isn't it true, Zandrine?
Oui, madame.
Cochon de lait is a French phrase meaning milk-fed pig.
The way he cries is deafening. Armand heard him the other day, as far away as LeBlanche's cabin.
Now, LeBlanche was a light-skinned female slave at L'Abri. Madame Valmond had never removed her eyes from the child. She scanned the baby narrowly, then looked as searchingly at Zandrine.
Yes, the child has grown and changed. What does Armand say?
Oh, Armand is the proudest father, I believe. Chiefly because it's a boy, to bear his name, though he doesn't say so. He says that he would have loved a girl as well. But I know it isn't true. I know he says that to please me. And Mama, he hasn't punished any of them since the baby was born. Even to Négrillon, who pretended to have burnt his leg so that he might rest from work, Armand only laughed and said Négrillon was a great scamp. Oh, Mama, I'm so happy. It frightens me.
What Désirée said was true. Marriage, and later, the birth of his son, had softened Armand's imperious and exacting nature greatly. This made Désirée so happy, for she loved him desperately. When he frowned, she trembled, but loved him. When he smiled, she asked for no greater blessing from God. But Armand's dark, handsome face had not often been disfigured by frowns, since the day he fell in love with her. When the baby was about 3 months old, Désirée awoke one day to the conviction that something was in the air, menacing her peace. It was, at first, too subtle to grasp. It had only been a disquieting suggestion, an air of mystery among the blacks, unexpected visits from far-off neighbors who could hardly account for their coming. Then, a strange, awful change in her husband's manner, which she didn't dare to ask him to explain. When he spoke to her, it was with averted eyes, from which the old love light seemed to have gone out. He absented himself from home and avoided her presence and that of her child without excuse. The very spirit of Satan seemed suddenly to take hold of him in his dealings with the slaves. Désirée was miserable enough to die. After some time, Désirée went to Armand's room, where she found him searching among some papers. He didn't notice her entering his room.
Armand!
She called to him, in a voice that must have stabbed him if he was human. But he didn't respond.
Armand!
She said again. But there was no response from him. Then she tottered towards him and clutched his arm.
Armand! What does our child mean to you? Tell me.
It means that the child is not white. It means that you are not white.
It's a lie, it isn't true. I'm white. Look at my hair, it's brown. And my eyes are gray, Armand. You know they are gray. And my skin is fair. Look at my hand, whiter than yours, Armand.
As white as LeBlanche's.
He replied cruelly and went away. When she could hold a pen in her hand, Désirée sent a despairing letter to Madame Valmond.
Dear Mother, they tell me that I am not white. Armand has told me that I am not white. For God's sake, tell them that it is not true. You must know it is not true. I shall die. I must die. I cannot be so unhappy and live.
Upon going through the letter, Madame Valmond became worried for her daughter. She replied very briefly.
My own Désirée, come home to Valmond, back to your mother who loves you. Come with your child, your beloved mother, Madame Valmond.
When the letter reached Désirée, she went with it to her husband's study and laid it open upon the table by which he sat. She was like a stone image, silent, white, and motionless, after she placed it there. Armand ran his cold eyes over the written words in silence, but said nothing.
Shall I go, Armand?
Yes, go.
Do you want me to go?
Yes, I want you to go.
He thought Almighty God had dealt cruelly and unjustly with him, and felt somehow that he was paying him back in kind when he stabbed, thus into his wife's soul. Moreover, he no longer loved her because of the unconscious injury she had brought to his home and his name. Désirée walked slowly towards the door, hoping he would call her back.
Goodbye, Armand.
He didn't answer. That was his last blow at fate. Désirée went in search of her child. Zandrine was out there, on the premises with it. She took the little one from the nurse's arms with no word of explanation, and descending the steps, walked away. It was an October afternoon. Out in the still fields, the Negroes were picking cotton. She disappeared among the reeds and willows that grew thick along the banks of a deep, sluggish bayou, and she never returned. Some weeks after Désirée's disappearance, Armand, determined to erase all the memories of her and the baby, ordered everything she had touched to be burnt in a bonfire. It was he who dealt out to a half-dozen Negroes the material which kept the fire ablaze. With all its dainty furnishings, a graceful cradle of willow was laid upon the pyre, which had already been fed, with the richness of a priceless layette. Then there were silk gowns, velvet and satin ones added to those, laces, embroideries, bonnets, and gloves. The corbeille had been of rare quality. The last thing to go was a tiny bundle of letters, innocent little scribblings that Désirée had sent him during their espousal days. In the end, there remained the last one, which Armand took upon his hand. But it wasn't Désirée's. It was a part of an old letter from his mother to his father. He glanced over it. She was thanking God for the blessing of her husband's love.
But above all, night and day, I thank the good God for having so arranged our lives that our dear Armand will never know that his mother, who adores him, belongs to the race that is cursed with the brand of slavery.
At that moment, Armand realized the bitter irony of his actions. It wasn't Désirée, but he, who had African ancestry. His rejection of his wife and child was rooted in the very bloodline he sought to preserve. Désirée's Baby is a tragic tale that reveals the destructive power of ignorance, prejudice, and the rigid societal norms that governed the lives of so many in the 19th century. Kate Chopin's story challenges us to reflect on the costs of these injustices and the lives they changed forever.